that didn't happen. So, I'm here to talk about shiny new Unity things and a super quick look at some of the new things that are coming to Unity. A highly awesome talk title, I think. It's pretty good. So, hello, this is me. My name is Joe Robbins, if you haven't met me before. I'm me, and I'm a community evangelist, which is the most bizarre job title known to mankind. It has nothing to do with religion. I'm not a local priest or anything, although it sounds like it. Actually, I met John Romero at GDC, just dropping some names, and he said, and when I introduced myself and said that I'm a community evangelist, he said, why does Unity need evangelists? So I'm like, shh. But yeah, basically what I tend to do is travel around, talk about Unity, meet people who are working on projects with Unity, connect them with other people that are working on things, and I organise talks, I do blog posts, I do interviews with people. I kind of wear a million different hats, and I'm normally wearing at least two at the same time. Prior to that, I was at Unity, the same thing, doing as a demo team artist. What would have been about 3 or so years ago now. So still at Unity. I actually currently live in Manchester. I'm based out of Manchester, although there isn't a Unity office in Manchester. I'm just kind of working remote. The main Unity office in the UK is down in Brighton. And yeah, so I was a demo team artist over in Copenhagen. I was living in Copenhagen for the past 5 years. So I worked on a lot of the little tutorial demos, image effect demos. If you ever saw any of those pretty awesome things. I also worked on Angry Bots as well, which is still going and still being used as an example of Unity stuff to this day, which is super hilarious. It was supposed to be just like a GDC project, just to show that you could deploy to all these platforms. Like 2, 3, 4 years ago now. It's still going strong, which is cool. Prior to that, I joined Unity as a technical support specialist was the job title, and that was just me on my own answering all of the support emails. So I'm not too sure exactly what the specialist part is supposed to mean, other than I do all of the things. And prior to that, I was actually living in Manchester before I moved out to Copenhagen. And I was working for a tiny little 3D for web company up in Somerset, near Bury, if anyone knows that. Out in the middle of nowhere, little small team. And I was using Unity. So that's kind of the origin story. So now we'll get on to the new shiny. Okay. Is it on?
Yes, it's
on working. So yeah, the new shiny. So at GDC, which seems like it was yesterday, but it's been a few weeks now. I've just been so crazy busy. We announced 4.5, 4.6, and 5 all in one big announcement. So there's a lot of new Unity stuff coming. I'll go through briefly what each one of those consists of, but basically the current state of things. 4.5 is kind of in release candidate stage at the moment. 4.6 is in beta, and 4.5 was also in beta at the same time as 4.6 was in beta, so it was like a dual beta thing going on. And 5x is kind of in alpha, pre-alpha kind of stage at the moment. So that's kind of the current state of where we're at with everything. So what's in 4.5? A bunch of things really. Mainly a lot of bug fixes and a lot of improvements, as a regular Unity update would be. But there's a lot of improvements to the 2D system. Lots of things with fixes for tiling that people have had issues with. New wheel physics stuff, so both 2D physics and 2D sprite asset import, export, and a bunch of fixes for Windows 8.1 and Windows Phone. It's a relatively new platform. So McCoy and Kirk. 4.6, obviously, the GUI system, which everyone's super anticipating. I've been anticipating since I started using Unity a million years ago. So finally, new GUI is coming. Next. There we go. So yeah, I don't have a live demo of UGUI just yet, unfortunately. But it is very close, and the GUI guys are kind of like, please don't show it yet, we want to make sure it's perfect. So hopefully, what I'm thinking of doing is doing a demo of it at some stage, at the very least at the Manchester Unity user group, which you can follow on Twitter. So yeah, MCR, or McCrug as it's known. So yeah, I'm thinking of maybe doing a demo of that pretty soon at one of the next Manchester Unity user group meetups. It tends to be the last Thursday of every month. Yeah, depending on how busy me and Dan are with work. But yeah, so I'll hopefully do a more up-to-date demo of it there. And it'll be just like Tom Cruise in Minority Report, like all GUIs should be. And then 5. So there's a lot of shiny in this one. So I'll just go through a bunch of the features that we're adding. So physically based shaders, real-time global illumination, the new audio system, WebGL, 64-bit editor, PhysX 3.3, speed tree support, 2D physics effectors, new mechanism features, Unity Cloud. So that's kind of like most of the main, the biggest features, I guess. Although there's a huge amount more on top of that as well. So I'll cover a bunch of these, but I'll kind of do it with the video. Hopefully the audio is not too crazy, if at all. There we go. So yeah, new lighting stuff, real-time global illumination. I've got a little bit more about that coming up as well. Yeah, it speaks for itself really, but it's pretty impressive what you can achieve with the new lighting system, especially in terms of performance. It's a hell of a lot more performant now than any other previous options were. There's also the reflection probes, which are kind of similar to light probes if you've ever used them in earlier versions of Unity, except for reflections. The physical-based shading section part is incredibly powerful, and I'll be really interested to see how people make use of that. But it really makes for some amazing looking shiny. The new GUI tools, obviously this is something that's coming in 4.6, but it will also obviously be in 5x as well. But it's a whole reworking of the GUI system. This one, new audio, is what a lot of people have been looking for a long time. It's still based on the Fmod back end, but everything in the front end is entirely different now. So there's a whole mixer system. You can have mixers of mixers and mixers of mixers. In addition to that, there's also the snapshots. So in the bottom corner, you may notice that there's different snapshots. So you could say set up a section where there's like a fight sequence snapshot, and you have levels associated with that, where you'll bring in like some dramatic drum beats or something, and you can ramp them up and down and blend between different snapshots at different times for your audio. There's a lot of different stuff you can do with effects as well, and adding effects to different layers of your mix. As an example that they've got here with ducking, and an effect where this dude throws a grenade at you and then your ears hurt. So yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff you can do with the audio system, and it's a lot of fun. A lot more functionality in the 2D physics, which is super useful. One of the ones that I think is most useful, at least from my perspective, is one that's actually coming up next, which is the 2D platform one-way collision colliders, which makes things a lot more easy for setting up platformer-based games. And obviously now there's the deploy to WebGL, and we're releasing that as kind of like an early access preview in 5. We're not going to get rid of the web player just yet, that's still here to stay. But obviously we're working with Mozilla on that one. So it should hopefully be the standard of WebGL. Everything will be awesome. A new multi-threaded joining system and timeline profiling. Another one that isn't highlighted on this one, but it's also incredibly awesome, is the frame draw call debugger, which allows you to see every single frame and see every single component of that frame rendered in a view within each section, and go through frame by frame to see how things are being rendered and optimized. So yeah, that's a super awesome new feature. A lot more animation stuff with the mechanism system. Yeah, a huge amount more stuff with the mechanism system. It's kind of too much to cover all in one thing, to be honest. What else? Oh yeah, root motion authoring is quite helpful now. You can generate root motion for your characters and animate it inside of Unity, and then choose to apply that as the root motion for your character as it's moving around. So you don't need to have that created in an external program and switch it on and off on import. You can just author it within Unity. And Unity Cloud as well is a whole new suite of services that will be coming initially with some kind of ad-based stuff, but down the line it's going to be a whole suite of cloud-based tools that you can use for advertising and cross-promotion of your games and friends' games and all Unity games. So yeah, there's a lot to come in 5, all things considered. Oh yeah, so let's have a closer look as well at the global illumination stuff. I've got this amazing video with some really awesome music at the start and the end. And the guys at Geomerics, who have done the Enlighten lighting system inside of Unity. See what I mean? Pretty awesome.
Hi, my name's Andy, and I'm an tech at Geomerics. And this year, we've mainly been helping our friends ship their first round of next-gen console titles, but we've also been working on an integration into Unity 5, where Enlighten will be the default lighting solution from then on. And I can show you it running on tablet. So this is our latest, greatest demo. This is Unity 5, a preview version, running with all lighting computed with Enlighten. Enlighten replaces the existing lighting solution, and we support everything from baked to fully dynamic global illumination. The light here at the end of the corridor is completely baked. And the light at this end of the corridor, which you can see faintly pulsing away, is completely dynamic. And we see nice bounced lights across the ceiling, but we also see the indirect specular effects as well. Enlighten generates light maps and cube maps, and we use this in a physics-based shading system on a mobile form factor. Here we have a nice little robot dude scanning the world, and his direct illumination, the element of it done by the GPU, is this blue point where we're tracking around the screen. But we see this blue light also illuminates the rest of the room. We have a nice warm blue glow on the other side of the screen. But we also have blue reflection in the floor, and it tracks the light around. Now, this kind of high-end lighting system has to date only really been available for large budget console titles, and we're really very excited about the idea of this coming to Unity. So in this room you can see that there's some nice flashing lights. These are actually done with emissive surfaces. It's very easy using Enlighten to make surfaces glow, so we simply animate the emissive components of these lights and we get a nice red glow around the ceiling, but also the red reflection in the floor. Walk through here, you can see the highlights of the lights in the floor. And through here, if I can get the door to open, it's a largely darkly lit room, but the second we walk in, we see the lights spin up, and some nice, very shiny, gimbly things spin round and round and round. So we're really very excited that later this year we'll see an enlightened shift in Unity 5 and establish a kind of new standard for the quality of lighting and graphics that we should see on mobile, tablets and upwards, really, console, next gen, everything. Now, we also do a lot of research on tablets, and in particular, we're looking forward to what the future will bring on mobile graphics, and you know, where we can see kind of console quality rendering solutions coming to mobile, which we believe not too far away these days.
So yeah, that's actually it. I do have. There we go. There's one. There's another one. There's another one. So yeah, I'll be wandering around all day checking out all of the awesome games. You can follow me on Twitter. You can follow McCrug, the Manchester Unity user group, on Twitter as well. That's generally at the moment where we talk about when the next events are coming up and whatnot. Although we're hoping to improve our online systems soon, just to make it a bit better. So yeah, talk to me about game jams. I do a lot of support for game jams globally. The train jam that went across over from Chicago to San Francisco recently, that was the one that we helped support. We support all kinds of jams. There was a tiny one over in Sweden, Denmark, that was happening, and the guy was like, "Oh my God, we need some Unity licenses, can you help out?" And that was yesterday, last minute. So it kind of varies all over the thing. So at the very least, we can normally help you out with some trial licenses for all participants for the duration of the jam, and then they go on as well for like 30 days from that point. So if you actually make something awesome in the jam and you want to continue working on it, you can. So that's cool. And that normally includes all of the add-ons. So if you're doing a jam that's specific to like Android or iOS or something, you can use those. In addition to that as well, if anyone's interested in establishing or has already established but wants to make more noise about a user group, a Unity user group in the area, let me know, because I'm kind of helping out with the Manchester user group because it's local and it makes sense to do it, but also I want to help establish more of a Unity presence across the north and help people out that wanted to do stuff with that. So yeah, that's me. That's some of the new shiny stuff. Does anyone have any questions? Have you got 5 minutes for questions? Yeah.
I'm about 3 or 4 years off after actually publishing a game.
Okay.
It's quite a large project, but I haven't entered production yet. Is it worth waiting around until we get 5 to start looking at the artwork in more detail?
So 3 or 4 years is the time frame. Have you been prototyping?
We've been prototyping a lot. We've started doing some art. We started doing some basic props, some basic texture and shaders and things like that. But when it comes to actually putting levels together, we're going to put a demo together anyway. But when it comes to actually putting a full game together, is it worth waiting? Is it going to be more effort for us to put the new audio engine in
right
from 4.3?
There's a certain degree of backwards compatibility that gets broken when you upgrade from one project to the next.
Yeah.
Unity does handle project upgrades to some degree, so it tries to make the transition as simple as possible. When you're working with source control, it can be a little bit more complicated.
Yeah.
You probably need to just branch off and start a new branch from there. It really depends on how much you want to get started now. The Unity 5 is planned for release this year. That's as vague as an answer is. But it's...
So as long as it's this year, I wasn't sure when it was going to... if it's this year, that's great, because I can plan around that. But.
Yeah, it will be this year. Generally as well, we do try and make our releases coincide with major industry events. So GDC was a big one because we announced all this stuff. The Unite conference is always a big one. We always like to be able to show stuff at that conference, and that's towards the end of the year. It doesn't always work out that way, that that development's in sync with our plans for events, but that's generally what we try and do. We like to be able to try and talk about the new stuff and show it off, or even say, no, you can download it, so that kind of thing. So yeah, that's kind of around sometime in the end of the year it'll be coming out. So it depends on how how much you're wanting to put into it, but I think it's worth at least starting out and then transitioning over. Just being aware that there are going to obviously be a few bits to hurdles to improve, like the PhysX system upgrade. There'll be some changes to that, but overall, I think you should be alright, just as long as you're careful with the process.
Yeah, it's things like the audio engine at the moment. I find it adequate for what I'm doing, but I'm writing a lot of code around it to that you might have written, you might have replaced with.
Right. I mean, quite possibly. I mean, there's a lot of things with like transitioning and ducking and all this kind of stuff that if you're doing with current code, it will be different. It may be that you can just kind of put things in relatively easy. Like most of the things in the mixing setup is exposed, so you can just get those exposed parameters. So if you've already got these values that are going up and down somewhere in your code, you can just hook them into the mixer instead.
Same goes with the UI as well. It's
I mean UI you do get a head start because that will be within the 4x cycle, so you'll get that at 4.6, and you won't have to worry so much about the upgrades making huge differences. As far as I'm aware as well, the legacy UI system is going to be retained just for the transitional period, but everyone will want to start using the new stuff because it's way better.
With the new audio system, I can't remember the file format, but I know you can sometimes write actual audio, like custom audio filters. Is there the ability to do that with the new audio system in Unity?
I believe so. I believe as far as I'm aware, it's done through the Fmod tools.
Right.
So you can write, as far as I know, I might be completely wrong about this, but I'm going to say yes. And I can see Wayne, the audio engineer in Copenhagen, going, no! He's an Australian, so we're like, no, why? But yeah, I'm pretty sure that you can do that at least with the Fmod tools. That's what it's been up until now.
Yeah.
So writing your own effects and everything has been done. I'm not sure whether there's plans to, at least initially anyway, to have that integrated within Unity to create your own effects. Yeah.
I'm a teacher, that's why I've got my hand up. I teach 11 to 16 year olds, and some of them keep saying, how do they get into Unity, where do they start? So where do they start?
A very good place these days is the unity3d.com/learn section of our website. The team down in Brighton, the Learn team, as they're known, are doing a great job of having really concise and accurate and the kind of, what's the term, kind of approved way of doing things, I suppose. So that would be a definitely good place to start. I personally learned how to use Unity in the Unity IRC channel. I'm not sure whether that's the same place that you'd want a bunch of 11-year-olds going or whatever, but at the same time, the Unity channel itself is super friendly, and everyone's really helpful in there. There's normally around 200 or so people in there at any one given time these days as well. At least for immediate feedback, that's a great place to go. Any problems that they're having, definitely direct them towards the forums, and specifically Unity Answers. Unity Answers generally has solved all of the problems that most people have encountered already. That's all available through the website. In addition to that, there's a whole boatload of kind of non-Unity authored content. So 3D Buzz, digital tutors. There's a lot of different websites and stuff that are doing teaching for Unity. Another alternative as well is to come along to some of the events and workshops that Unity does, and have people learn that way. Chris Pope, the guy down in Brighton, is doing a lot of these workshops these days where people can come along and learn about Unity. I'm not sure whether it's aimed at that kind of level, but I'm sure it'd be something that they'd be interested in considering, because it's cool for everyone to make games.
Thank you.
As a community evangelist, how do you feel about the new engine wars? So with Epic dropping the Unreal 4 for $19 and Crytek announcing the CryEngine for only 10 and Unity Pro being so much more expensive.
Yeah. I think it's a really interesting time. I mean, I remember when I first joined the company about 5 years ago, there was a thought that we'd ever be we'd be competing with those guys on that level was kind of ridiculous. And I remember distinctly when it was the second Unite I'd ever been to over in San Francisco, first time I'd ever been in San Francisco, and that was when we announced the free version of the indie version of our. So we made Unity Indie, which used to be $300 free. And when we did that, very soon afterwards there was a response from Epic, which took us all by surprise, because up until that point we thought they were like way up here and not even taking notice of what we were doing. But it's interesting, like the Unity's always been kind of, you know, it started out as a hobbyist tool set and indie tool set, and it's kind of grown in this direction. And it feels as though Epic's been kind of AAA and it's been kind of coming down this direction. So now we're just kind of hitting each other. But in terms of the actual price, it's you know, the whole GDC price announcements, it's been a really fun time, at least on the internal emails. There's been all kinds of interesting debates going on. The most important thing we feel is not to have any kind of a knee-jerk reaction to it, at least at this stage. The ball's definitely firmly in our court after GDC, but it's just a case of figuring out, you know, what aspects of the product, but also the community and everything that comes around, you know, Unity and Unreal, and how it all pans out. It'll be interesting to see what our solution ends up being. But at the moment, I don't know, I'm biased, I guess, but I definitely think that Unity's got the stronger community behind it. But I would say that because I'm a community evangelist, so it's kind of like, yeah. But yeah, it's an interesting time. And it's cool, the fact, because ultimately everyone wins, at least in terms of game developers, you know. So it's going to be cool to see how it comes out.
Has anybody ever played on the idea that Unity is in community?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's yeah, there's all kinds of, yeah.
Final few minutes if there's one more question.
Okay,
I was wondering if you had a preference with the script you use with Unity, like is there a difference between Java and C++?
I mean, not so much. It always, you know, compiles down into native bytecode, so performance-wise there isn't so many differences. JavaScript's programmers would argue is a little bit more limited in some ways. There's certain things that you can't do. I personally started learning with JavaScript because I hadn't done really any programming before, and I found it a little bit less strict. But other than that, I'd recommend most people to start learning C#, mainly because it's relatively transferable as well. Yeah, most programmers advise me that I should be using C#, so I guess that would be the... And then if you're really feeling daring, use Boo as well. Nobody uses Boo.
Is there any chance of the JavaScript syntax being updated to the new ECMAScript Harmony style, slightly more robust?
I don't know, possibly. I haven't heard any plans about that, but then I haven't been in Copenhagen for a long while, which is where you have these conversations going on at lunchtime all the time. So I've been in Manchester not hearing this stuff, but I've not heard anything about that, but possibly. Cool.
All right. Excellent. Thank you.